Teman dengan sulit lah Chilton mengkal orang war le mungkin la syukar dia satu yang berkoe jong ka amlar tarau ada omeso se langkal luata merangi mangguk melangul meleng guk melar tarau langkuk tiang ralurur ni so kalau agak ngirim mau belaktak lo omso dem le selurul belaringi el togora de adengi ma energia maklo tutelera ada belo el aguk plamet tiang mang kamu oi selose tiang ralurur ngara mengkal guk okya mo mengkem ngara komrur ni.
Welcome to the show, Tami and Joe.
Misali Ngirmang manggaw ma Irene. Hindi BS sila relege ilang at tel tokora island conservation. Tiagita alogor kamam. Tel non-profit ra blue ram bigel. Edi sultay mel bornya obis ra blue belaw. Dire tel island conservation Palau. Enam mereka tel babiera AG's office. Kamam mandi mula igel tokora tax bornya permanent position ng tel belaw. Hindi wala ma igel tokora invasive species.
Kamso di
agil tokora invasive species tiagita babiera ngara madam elang tel tokora restoring the land to restore the sea. Namamrega tel tokora oceans conference nariya MOU the island conservation og ngela minister Mafei the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Environment. Yakama malorio lo ngela tel National Invasive Species Bureau a national government. Edi sultan mangania yel wela malobengela Micronesian region sele Regional Invasive Species Council. Klo tutlele tel tokora invasive species Ngirmang mun tiagi del ngara albang gita kira islands. Ayet del tokora piap rulil tel bulu mutulgi bul ngodel mos daksib rulil tel dabe bulumil tel tokora oceans. Ma akorior ringi island conservation belau mga kama loyal Darius ladang ngatiang ngagi de bitanga angkle la Tami Hall nga island restoration specialist hindi mo tinga igil tetele lema agil kar magirogul at sitele welet hindi elang kama mga rangar along elang tel ngar kaklaw before the oceans conference kama maruli sel ngar kaklaw pornya igil klela bya bangar ni hindi elal weekend gira mamutin morning sel second bait after 21 days. Hindi lang tel ul mga mamadi ngat yang daga sa ngar along elal tam hopefully elal weekend sa bedel mo.
Ngari ba nama dia?
Mlari ngira ba nama de metorilo kama morio bingel abil society segi del ngar kaklaw ngari ngar urul kama morio bingel land owners say. Edi sultan men ngari project kama mara orior tel ulo. Namsada budulong ngin mo set 1990 sa direkal nari tel tokora. Eradication abia. So halak pum sa te ala Tami sa da yel projects sa kadangari. So I'm going to ask Tami to just talk about our work in Ngirmang, what we do as island conservation, at the same time what are possible plans here in Palau. Malam sulang Ngirmang.
Yeah. Where do you want me to start?
Well, the work you do with island conservation, Palau, is very important. So perhaps you can share some expertise on.
Yeah.
And what are you doing now?
Yeah. So I first came to Palau about 10 years ago to do some just scoping trips, and we were looking to see how we could help with various invasive species projects. We were looking at the macaques on Engar. And some of our priorities were immediately clear that we were really interested in removing invasive species from primarily rats from the rock islands, because we saw that there would be a huge benefit to the ecosystem. Since then, we came back in 2016. We established a really good working relationship with Koror State. We entered an MOU with them. We did a pilot project on Nyangas Island. So we worked with Koror State closely in PCS, and we demonstrated that it was possible to remove rats. Since then, we also realized that one of the most important components to the sustainability of those projects is the biosecurity. So that's making sure that you don't allow an invasive species, be it rats, coconut beetles, ants, whatever, to return. So with that information, we knew we could be successful. We knew we had the technical capability, and we just needed to find some resources and really refine our technique and approach. And since then, we have established a nonprofit, I think as Tutii said, here in Palau. Currently, we are working with Karora State to do the baseline biological monitoring and biosecurity campaign and education kind of outreach for Uludong. Uludong is probably right now our main priority project. And
There's a lot of rats there.
there are. We've all seen them. So we're really happy with where we are with our partnership with Karora State and the Department of Conservation and Law Enforcement. We're looking at November to come back, and I want to talk in a minute about our approach using drones, which is an innovative approach to removing rats. We're working with a group out of New Zealand, but in order to, like as I mentioned, have a long-term sustainable project, we need to have good education, outreach, and biosecurity campaigns. So I'm really happy that Karora State has really taken the lead on rolling out this biosecurity campaign. They're doing a campaign. They're calling it the Check and Go. So check your boat, check your gear, make sure there's no rats, no invasive species before you go to an island. So check and go. I think that's a really fantastic campaign. So you'll probably hear more about that. They're doing a great job leading that. And then now bringing us up to the current moment, we are working on a rat eradication using the drones. It's establishing our method and technique up in Ngirmang State, working with the Ngirmang State government, with the rangers there, and with the Udesuall Society to remove rats from Olkeriil. So we've the company that we're working with out of New Zealand, they're here now. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here because they are preparing to mobilize the operation as we speak. They're called Invico Technologies out of New Zealand. I'll share their information. But they've developed a really innovative tool that is a heavy lift drone that can disperse the rat bait that we use in a really precise and effective technique. So we did our first bait application about 3 weeks ago, and we're just waiting for a clear moment in the weather so we can get the second one done.
Okay. Jom kamu ay
Thank you,
selo
Tami.
magarada kam sodi magarada mo kada pa maikal lo ingkang igil mo moru.
Ngirmang ay makwada biyabe lang kamang mo special kalila biyab. Gospel ay kalila biyab. Nganit kale, what's the name of that the bait for the rats? Rodenticide.
It's a rodenticide, yeah.
Rodenticide.
Venticide.
Yeah.
It's like a pellet, and what they do with the drones is before we used to have to walk and set up these lines and use a bucket and then spread it out. Uludong is such a big island, so we're testing it in Ngirmang to see how we can use these drones. And these drones do the same thing that we did with the transects. They actually draw the lines, come and do the plan for the drones, and then the drone automatically follows that the height of it, the spread, and they have a way for it to spread in a certain angle and direction. So we know we cover the whole island. So when we use this baiting for islands, we do it first bait. That's the first one we put down, and then we wait 21 days because some of the rats will die. Maybe there's still some left. That's why the second baiting is more important.
What do you do with the dead ones? You burn them or?
The crabs, they'll just decompose. The nutrients will go back into the environment.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think if you don't mind, I'll just mention that the product that we use, the rat bait, it breaks down into just inert components after a period of time, so it doesn't remain in the environment for a long time.
So like if chicken eat it or other
It doesn't
animals.
kill birds or chickens?
There can be some mortality if other species eat it. So we do a bunch of studies beforehand to determine what's going to eat the bait, and we make a really calculated decision, and it's a cost benefit analysis, and you have to look at the bigger picture. And if you lose a couple of birds, but in the long term, you're able to restore things like seabird colonies and those things. And then what we're really looking at now is the ridge to reef benefit. So if you have seabirds that are returning to islands, they're bringing nutrients from the sea, which then in turn deposit back into the surrounding marine environment. What we've seen and what we're trying to determine how to best measure is that you can have a really lot of benefits to the marine environment, more fish, healthier coral reefs, and so on.
I have one question.
Tom, you mentioned earlier that you did rat eradication at anomalies.
Not Nimilis.
Uludong.
No, we did Nayangas.
Yes.
Yes.
How successful was it? Have
So-
you go back and see if
Yeah, so we know that it was successful because we have methods to determine and detect whether or not rats are present. We can use genetics. We take tissue samples of all of the rats before we remove them, and we unfortunately went back after a couple of years and we found rats. And through the genetic analysis, we were able to definitively determine that there was a different population from a different island. It's really amazing that you can do that, but you can look and you can see, okay, this was one population, and you can clearly see from the markers that you get in your analysis that it was a new introduction. So it was a pilot project, as I said. We knew there was a risk of reintroduction, and that's why I keep mentioning the biosecurity, because it's the most important component for the long-term success.
So here's an important question. Since it's like a pellet,
Yeah.
is there a way that you can drop like a rat bird control pellets, so then the rats will eat it and just sterilize the rats so they don't give birth anymore?
That's a very good question, and in fact, that's something that we've been working on with Island Conservation for years. And the genetic control approach, it's very controversial, but it's something that, if done right, and if we can continue to refine that approach, that may be feasible. Of course, first it needs to be proven on islands that are very remote. So it's our campaign would be it's basically a daughterless mouse project, so that all of the subsequent generations, once they've received that, will be males.
have you
Didn't you like that for Angar too, for the monkeys?
And I'm happy to share contacts for more of that information. I'm really not the expert on that field, but Island Conservation is working with others on that.
Okay. Kadam araw labong almameda kami di da guger kaulo sing ngaraigil bisay drabat. Aigil ko social mokodal. Tigal bodo aigal bodo mokat bisay drabat ngaraigil
Good question.
blog ongerung ongedel. Hindi ba barwa alup maral
Sulang Ngirmang elang sige del focus ra Island Conservation agel torabia. Sige del kalel rabia magel rodenticide. Sige di focus agel tora vertebrates. Agel arbel ngariara sa sila padingir. So rogongan sa el mga sige del baby. Hindi ka ngaral Rurgi. Hindi girel Manila at least 6 months il poto da sige del rodenticide al sila padingir la rogo. Emo sa bedel muto mga ringi malay. Sada ka pala ringi. Hindi elang focus il biab. Of course, lagel blue angel was in ngani agel tora katu, magel katura aryom angel ngana jungle, so magel the monkey. Adi agel tora armela leaves, agel coconut beetle, magel the tora series tele kabias. Say that focus expertise ramang. Gira man lorio bungira national government, ego siga ethical partners is will help for the national government. Take the Tora MOU kamam Island Conservation, lo bungira ministry Minister Victor. Sige dil gira man dongok leruli agel details ringil wasen kamam audio lo bungamiul take the Tora invasive species rabia. Ma ngaria partners kamam sa mel help program agel Tora armela leaves, mga ngaria other civil help gira Tora agel shares tel kabias. Fruit flies sa dire ngania connection na kamam and partners sa ablulat sa el help ablu bela hindi focus kamam lang ay ito to karapya Hindi mania project hindi regal dak sa mga naklol pasyo nga niya atong okral sel.
Oh, I see.
Tukora igel almer bilis tukora mal ulil mal mering lagi ta ulo mam soma maigel albab ninda ka ate kerni
Oh, I see.
saba mandiruli lomesa igel result sa tiagi del ronden site alungil ma ulengirel magarang and then next component sa the biosecurity tel tukora koro state elang check and go uli sel first project dim naksalungil dim lang ay le biosecurity usin ilel ngani adi girel ngani mamgar tel bulu or ngirel ngani adal make sure ngana abulu to del mar albab ngirel check ay air sige the biosecurity upload to telen e kamam ngani elang an rubela o nga maloy ngirel maral plura ay schools elo sa saklangan either to education development ma mora ay community meetings lo ay sa adra blue أول اللوني قمام من التائل السلسل مساعدة ديال project را أميرا نوفمبر را أولو ما أدرى بلول أوريو specifically نسبة المدنية.
Roman Masaw. Thank you.
Mada ko man masauli, Joe. Thank you, Tommy. I mean, this is very interesting. I was involved in the eradication of Kayangal rats. I was the chairman of the board of PCS, so I know it's very important because they're just kind of growing out of bound. So thank you very much. And so I guess we're going to see more of you, and then Joe is going to be your man on the ground. So.
Well, one of the men in Angari Aloyola ang atiyam.
Okay.
Ma'am Sulang Ngirmang.
Okay, Ma'am Sulang.
Bye.
Ma'am Sulang
Thank
Irene.
you, Brother Joe.
Sedrar mauod lara rupak kaldio